All right, I think we'll get started now, if everyone could find a seat. Well, good morning and welcome to Northeastern University. How's everybody? You probably feel like it's afternoon by now, right? Because it's been a long morning already. But, well, welcome. My name is Susan Brown, and I am the Associate Director of Parent and Family Programs at the university. And I'm here to spend the next 15 to 20 minutes talking with you about how we provide services to our parents and families and different ways that you can assist your student and different programs that we'll be offering you throughout the academic years here. So we like to look at our relationship with the parents and families as a partnership. My main function here at the university is if ever you have any issues, any problems or concerns, we encourage you to call the office, and we would be more than happy to assist you. When you checked in this morning, you got a calendar. My 800 number is on the calendar, and I'll put it up at the end of the screen. We also have a very easy email address if you have questions or concerns. It's parents@neu.edu. So if your student's having trouble adjusting, maybe you're having trouble, you have just questions or concerns, please feel free to call us or email us at any time. We also develop programs throughout the year that promote parent and family involvement. One of them is being this orientation program. I always tell parents it was not mandatory for you to be here today, but we are so glad that you are here. I think it really gives you a feel of what it's like to be on campus and see your students, you know, in the dining hall and that type of thing. So that's one of the programs we do provide. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more in a few moments about some of the other programs we provide. And also we advocate for the students and the families during their time of transition. So just to take care of a little business before we start, in your package you have a letter from Madeline Estabrook about FERPA, and I just want to tell you what FERPA means and how we gather our data and how we can talk to you if you were to call my office. So FERPA is the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, and what that means, it limits what we can tell parents and families if your student has not approved you for access. And this kind of goes into our parent portal account, and I'm going to go over that in a moment so we won't have any confusion. So if your student is over the age of 18 and you call me and they have not allowed you access, I would not be able to discuss like their grades with you. I always tell people I've worked for the university a long time, and I honestly can count the times on my hands that parents have been denied access. So I wouldn't get overly worried about it or anything. So how we get our data. So when we do communicate with you, what happens now that your students are here, from now, actually from yesterday to Tuesday, I believe, Monday at 4, they have to do a process called I Am Here, and that's verifying their enrollment, and they are told of this. So what they have to do is go online and verify that they are here on campus, so they won't lose any of the classes, everything will be all set, and they are required to put emergency contact information in. So that's how we get your data. They have to put like a phone number of a parent or guardian or a family member, and that's where a lot of our information comes. That's one way, and the other is through our parent portal. Students, just in case you change your email address or a cell phone number, they are responsible for going into their student portal and updating your information, so if you changed an email address, okay? So that's how we get our information. And what we do with some of that information, you're going to hear a little bit about this in your next session, is we have a program here called NU Alert. And this allows us to tell students about an emergency on campus. So let's say if there was an issue in one of the residence halls, let's say a flood, this gives us the ability to know, what students, text them, dial their cell phone, and it also will alert you too as parents and family members. So this is why it's so important to have current information so that we can notify them if ever there was a campus emergency. If anyone's standing, just so you know, there are more seats upstairs in the balcony. So how we stay connected to you. This is some of the ways that we will communicate with you and provide you services throughout the year. One is our parent and family portal, the parent message board. We do a newsletter. We have a Facebook page and our Tuesday Top webinars. So one I want to talk about is our parent portal. How many already have a parent portal account? Okay, quite a few. I do want to just briefly go over it, just so we all have an understanding of what the parent portal does. The student portal and the parent portal are a little bit different. The student portal, when the students come time to find a co-op job, they go on their student portal. The parents will not be able to see that information. What you can see as a parent in the parent portal is it's a way of communicating information to you regarding like deadlines or if something was going in one of the colleges or we hired new faculty, it would be on the parent portal. It also is a way for you to pay your bill and to add funds to your student's Husky account. And the other one is you can see your students' grades and transcripts. So please keep in mind, though, you will not see the grades, midterm grades. You will only see the final end of the semester's grades, and then each semester you'll see the grades. If you do not have an account, we really do encourage you to create one. And on the right-hand side of the screen is a way, it shows you what to do. You would go on to get in mynortheastern.edu, and there's a button that says Parents and Guardians. When you click that, it's going to ask you several questions about your student and yourself. And what happens is your student receives an email, and they will be notified that you are requesting an account, and it's the student's responsibility to give them access, to give you access to, they can do two ways. They can give you campus important information, and paying the bills is one way, and the other one is campus, bills, and grades. So this is where FERPA comes in place, where they could say, oh, I don't want my parent to have access. So that's what the portal does. If you want to have your students on their student portal, they can see like each transaction. You know, if they swipe to Dunkin' Donuts, the parent portal doesn't do all that transaction. So this is what you will see, though. One of our other services is our parent message board. Actually, this is one of my favorite ones. It takes about 1 minute just to create a username and password, and I'll give you at the end, I'll put up all our slides where you'll find our website where you can go into the parent message board. And this is a really good service because it allows you to talk with other parents and families. Has anybody used our parent message board? Anybody? Okay, get a chance to check it out. There's a lot of questions people will post, like, you know, if their son or daughters are looking for an off-campus job or they're looking for an apartment. A lot of people will post, you know, about co-op jobs, or if their student wants to study abroad, or well, you might say, my student's an engineering major, what is a typical salary they will make? And what happens is other parents will kind of share their experiences. So you don't have to post a question. You can just kind of lurk if you want, but if you get a chance, please check it out. I really do think you'll find it very useful. This is our Parent and Family Matters newsletter. It's electronic that we will be sending to you, and this is why it's important for us to have updated information. We do this in October, November, and then usually in April you'll receive an issue. We tend to highlight, you know, when things are due, information on moving in and out of the residence halls. We do a student spotlight, that type of thing, and that is found in our Parent Matters newsletter. So you'll be getting an issue in April. This is our Facebook page, and like I said, I'll put the address up. We hope, this is the official university Facebook page. I do realize there are a couple other ones out, but this is the one for the parent and families. We update it frequently, you know, giving you a little information of what's happening on campus, so we hope that you will join us. And this is a program called Tuesday Talks. Each month, once or twice a month, we do a webinar, and typically it's held in the evening on a Tuesday at 7 p.m. We will send you an email telling you about the topic. We do ones with the college. I think we're doing one next Tuesday about staying healthy, and you will receive an email, and then you can register. If you are unable to attend the webinar, we will record it so that you can listen to it later. And we also have a lot of our past webinar topics up on our website now from last year and this year. So, one of the things that we like to do here at Northeastern is connect you with other parents, and you might have noticed when you checked in, many of you have a ribbon that says where you're from. I know some people don't have one, but most people have the ribbon. This is just a chance that if you're from the West Coast or from another country, you can say, oh, where are you from, and reach out to other families. We hope that you will take advantage at lunch and dinner time to meet new parents who are going through a similar situation like yourselves. And then tonight, we're having a parent-family reception. It's from 7 to 9. It's just a chance, very informal reception, just gives you a chance to meet other families and kind of wind down from the day. I will be there with some of our student orientation leaders. If you have any questions, they'll be there. So we hope you'll join us tonight. It's at the Egan Center, 240. It's on the very first floor from 7 to 9. I am going to put our contact information up. This was the website, our website, where you can find all the previous Tuesday talks. We have not determined our date yet for Friends and Family Weekend, but we will have that up hopefully by the end of January what the date will be for next year. So our next presentation is Building the Northeastern University Community. Gives you a chance to hear from our Public Safety Division and Housing and our Office of Student Conduct. So I'm going to turn it over to them and let them get their slides ready. I encourage you, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to email us, parents@neu.edu. Our office is actually, when you exit here, on the right. So if you want to come by and say hello or have any questions, I'll be there today. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's such a full crowd, so welcome to Boston. We're happy to have you here. I'm glad we have some nice weather for you. It's a little cool, but really quite beautiful out. So welcome. Like Susan said, we're going to talk to you about building the Northeastern community. My name is Robin Golden, and I'm the Associate Director in Residential Life and Housing Services. My colleagues will be joining us this morning from Off-Campus Student Services, the Office of Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution, and Northeastern University Police. So we're going to each talk to you for about 20 minutes, talk a little bit about our areas, what we offer for you and your students, what you and your students can expect of us, and then what we're going to expect of you and your students in return. At the end of our session, as time permits, we'll take questions, as Susan did, and then we always stay available to take questions on a one-on-one basis after our session as well. So as we go along, if something sparks your interest, please take a note and we'll get to all of those questions at the end. So I'm going to go first while I'm here. So as I said, I represent Residential Life and Housing Services, so university housing. For those of you in the room who have traditional first-year students, so whether your student attended an NUN program for the last semester, or maybe they didn't, but you're a traditional first-year student, when I talk about things like required and first-year students, I'm talking about your students. For those of you in the room who have a transfer student, so someone who attended a different university and is transferring here to this institution, I'm not talking about your students when I'm talking about first year. So there's a little bit of different groups in the audience today, so I'll try to be really sensitive to that as I'm explaining some of our various processes. So for spring, those of you who have students living with us, those first-year students who are required to be here, they're in all of our different housing styles. So they're traditional, semi-private apartment styles. Each one of your students is connected to a living and learning community. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when I talk about our programs. And they each have a meal plan requirement regardless of where they're living. And the purpose of that is to, A, if they don't have kitchen facilities, to make sure that they have access to meals and dining, but also even if they do have access to their own kitchen, to make sure that they're integrating with the community, meeting other students on campus from within their residence hall and outside their residence hall. It's just another way to make sure that they're really integrating here into Northeastern. For the second year, those traditional first-year students are required to live with us for another year. Your transfer students, so students who are not living with us right now, can apply, and they may or may not receive our housing selection numbers for that following year. So anyone can participate in the process. We'll also talk a little bit more about that. Housing options for students after that first year are the semi-private suites and apartment-style options. We do offer some second-year thematic experiences, so if they really enjoy their experience with their living learning community, there's opportunities to extend that. And then meal plans are required in non-apartment style, so anywhere that doesn't have a kitchen facility. So your students may have the full meal plan for years 1 and 2 with us. So those of you who are with us, hopefully yesterday you had a great smooth move-in experience and you met some of the building staff. So those people living in the halls, we have 20 professional staff spread out around campus. They're master's level professionals who live and work in the residence hall communities. So they are a professional staff member overseeing everything from facilities reports to, escalated roommate issues, overseeing the RAs, making sure all the programming is happening. So they're a great resource for you and for your student. Their contact information can be found on our website if you ever have a specific question related to your student's building community. We also then have 7 graduate assistants who assist in some of those larger communities, overseeing in addition to the residence directors and area coordinators. And then we have over 240 resident assistants. So those are peer students who are in place to help support your students and their acclimation to campus. So hopefully your student had an opportunity to meet them. They kicked off last night with welcome to the community meetings, and the RAs were present for those. So have your student make sure that they get to know their RA. While they're here today, in their orientation sessions away from you, they're also integrating with the orientation leaders, so other students who are here in a peer mentor role to help answer their questions, guide them, just give them a sense of what it's like to be a student here at Northeastern. And so the RAs are there for that as well. They're experiencing homesickness. Maybe not. They were just away, a lot of them, for a while, so maybe that won't be an issue for this group, but it still might. You would be surprised. Or they are experiencing a roommate issue, or they don't know how to submit a facilities report, or they don't know the hours of the library or how to find their first class. The RA is really there for all of that. One of the things the RAs do over the first 2 weeks is what's called a Husky Chat, where they're going to touch base with each and every one of your students who's living in our community, have a one-on-one conversation with them, talk a little bit about what their experience has been like so far, try to identify any concerns that they might be having, and then give them the resources to overcome any of those concerns. So there's someone here who's looking out specifically for your student in their community and is going to have that conversation with them, and then they do it again later on in the semester. Some of the other things that hall staff, the RAs, and the professionals do is a lot of programming. So you're going to hear about programming that happens around campus, and then there's also programming that happens specifically in the residence halls. So some of that started last night, so they attended their welcome to the neighborhood meetings, which were really well attended. Your students got a lot of great information at that about what it means to live in a residence hall. So some of those expectations about policies, but also just, how important it is to mediate conflict before it becomes a big conflict, or how to get involved in the hall council. So your students got all of that information. You might want to ask them about it, make sure that they took something away from it and they're feeling excited about their community. After the meetings last night, they did offer 3 different programs around campus. They did a movie night, a game night, and some recreational activities in Marino. So a lot of your students attended those as well. Again, a really great way to kick off the new semester here. That is going to continue. There's a lot of programming focused in the first 6 weeks. It's the most important time in a student's transition to a new experience. And so lots will happen then, and then things will continue on beyond that. They'll be involved in the Hall Cup, which is a great campus-wide competition among the first-year students to earn a trophy. They call it like Harry Potter meets Northeastern, so a lot of students get really excited about that. So there will be large-scale events in addition to small-scale things that happen right in their residence halls. And then for your students who are living in residence halls that are not ones that have an LLC right in them, they were each assigned to their top choice living learning community. So in addition to having programs right in their hall, they're also being invited to participate in the programs of that living and learning community. So whether that was connected to their program of study, might be the College of Engineering or Bouvet, or it was an interest, the musical motifs or leadership. There's about 20 of them. Whichever one they got assigned to, they have access directly to that residence hall for the first 2 weeks so that they can come and go as they please, attend all of those LLC programs, and again, just find another way to connect to other students and to the university. And so we're excited to offer that. And then after that time, when they no longer have their own access, they can still continue to be signed in with other students to participate in the programs throughout the rest of the semester. So make sure your student knows about all of those options for engaging with the Residence Life programs. The other one to highlight is Hall Council. Each building has their own little programming board called a Hall Council, where students can get involved and have a say in what programming is happening in their hall. So if that's something that you think your student would benefit from and help them as they adjust here, then definitely encourage them to join that. A little bit about safety and security. You're going to hear a lot from Northeastern University Police later, a big scale safety and security as far as campus, but some specific things to just think about as far as the residence halls. In addition to the hall staff, the buildings do have proctors at them, and so in addition to being card or key access, there's also someone sitting there monitoring who's coming in and out of the building. We do have cameras that can be monitored by Northeastern University Police if that needed to happen. And then in addition to the front entrance, their rooms are also either card or key access. So if they're on a building that's a card access, it's important that you stress to your student, especially if you know that you have a student who maybe is notorious for losing things, that card really needs to be treated as important and as securely as you would treat a credit card or a key. That card can gain access with a PIN number, of course, but if they've shared that information, it's just something if they happen to lose it that they get a replacement right away. You also hear more about Husky Card, and so will they, but just something to keep in mind if you know that that's maybe applicable to your student. Something that's really important for us to talk to you about is how we communicate with your student and how we communicate with you and how you can help your student get information from us. So we communicate in three main ways: through our Housing Online portal, through their Northeastern email, and we only use their Northeastern email now, and our social media accounts. So Housing Online is the portal that is kind of a one-stop shop for all university housing information. It's where they can find room assignment information, roommate information. It's where they'll find forms if you needed to change your arrival day. If you couldn't arrive on the 3rd and maybe you came in on the 2nd, that's where your student would have gone to submit that request. So they will do a lot of things in that portal where they interact with us and also where they get information from us. So if they're looking for something, that's always one great place to encourage them to look. The second is email. So we send a lot of emails. Unfortunately, that's a good and a bad. So we send them lots of information, and then sometimes they're like, "Ugh, I'm so tired of reading these emails from housing. I'm just not going to." But that might be the one email that really pertained to them and had really important information. So I personally encourage them to read all of our emails very carefully. And if you have a student who maybe doesn't do a great job with that, maybe you want to ask them to forward along those emails to you so you can go through them as well. But we do communicate with your student to their Northeastern email about a lot of things. And then social media is one great way that you can stay in touch with us, as can your student. So, the Housing Online portal is separate from the parent portal, so you don't have access to that. Those emails, they go to your students, so you don't have access to those. But our social media is out there for everyone, so you can follow us. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and the same content gets posted on all three, so don't feel like you have to follow us on all of those. But pick one, and you can get a lot of important reminders and things as well there about upcoming deadlines, or if we're sending out room assignments, we'll put that information on our social media as well, so you can have your student take a look for that. So I definitely encourage all of you in the room, if you want to stay connected with us and know what's going on, to utilize our social media. One thing that's coming up, I'll just flip here, is our upcoming processes. So first and foremost, some things in addition to those programs. Other things the Residence Life in-hall staff is doing are roommate agreements. So if your student came in, whether it's someone that they already know and they requested to live with, or it's someone that they didn't know, they're going to be given the opportunity to do a roommate agreement with, whether it's a direct roommate or an apartment or a suite, to just discuss expectations in their shared living areas, things that they're okay with, not okay with, all of those compromises that we want them to talk about. So that's going to happen right away. And then also coming up is room change. So there may be some of you in the room where your student is, for whatever reason, not happy with their room assignment. Hopefully lots of you are, but we recognize that some of you aren't. And so we have an open room change process. It's something to know that we have at the beginning of every term, so this might not just apply to your student right now. It could apply for summer, it could apply to next fall. Whenever that may be, if something happens where your student is interested in exploring options to change that room assignment, we offer a room change process. And so that's going to start pretty soon, and it lasts throughout most of the semester. The only time we really don't offer room changes is like the first 2 weeks of the semester and the last 2 or 3 weeks, because we are geared up for the next semester. So other than that, we're pretty fluid here about offering room change options based on what we have available. The big thing coming up is, believe it or not, I know you just moved in, for those of you who have a student living with us, or you moved into an off-campus apartment if you're doing that, if you're not commuting from a residence, but we are already talking about housing for next academic year, fall 2019 and spring 2020. And off-campus is going to talk a lot about the timeline for looking at off-campus options, and what you'll hopefully notice is that our timeline really mirrors that. Because when we have students, so right now if your student is living with us, yes, they're required for that next year, but after that they're not. They're going to have a choice whether they want to live in university housing or they want to move off campus. And so we want our timeline to really mirror that so that they can get the most out of both options. So we've already communicated with your student that applications are available. So students can go in right now. The deadline is January 18th. Deadlines for these processes are very, very important. So if that's something that you know you need to stay on top of your student about, please do so. So they're going to submit an application. For those of you who have required students, if they fail to submit their application, we will do it for them. They don't get to slip through the crack that way. We will submit that on their behalf, but in exchange for doing that, they do get less desirable selection numbers. So we want them to submit their own application, so make sure that they do that. It's right in the Housing Online portal. So they're applying now. They'll do selection in February and March if they are in the process. So those of you who have transfer students in the room, what happens is your students apply on the same timeline, and then on February 1st, they will find out whether they're receiving a selection number or they're on the wait list and where they're at on the wait list. By telling them on February 1st, it still gives them lots of time in the off-campus process to be securing desirable housing. So again, Mallory's going to talk more about that, but hopefully you'll see that those timelines really are in sync. And so that's why this application, I know it feels really soon. We just got here. Why are you talking to us about next fall? But because it's really important that we set up our students to be successful. If we waited and we told you in April that you're on a wait list, that would really be doing the students a disservice as far as getting the most out of the off-campus market. So students will, do this now. They're going to select it throughout February, March. April, May continues the selection and assignment part of that process. So it's kind of ongoing, but a big part of it is important right now. And I know I've said it a couple times, but as a reminder, those of you who have those required students, they are required to live with us again next year. All right, I'm going to hope that Mallory has joined us from off campus. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Mallory, and she's going to talk to you about off-campus student services.
I bet you were all scared that I wasn't here. I was waiting in the wings listening the whole time, no worries. Thank you. So excited to see such a big group this morning. So my name is Mallory Perna. I'm the Assistant Director in Off-Campus Student Services. So this will not only be directed to students living off campus this semester, but any students seeking off-campus housing in the future. So please keep us in mind as I move through our resources. Happy to answer questions anytime, wherever your student is living, about living in Boston. So our office is really focused on not only helping students find off-campus housing and navigate the apartment search in Boston, but also providing resources to connect them to licensed, reputable realtors, find roommates, navigate finding a landlord or finding a property manager that would be a good fit for them, finding neighborhoods, figuring out their budgeting. So we really walk students through the whole process from beginning to end. So we do a huge apartment search program really all year. Mostly, though, it starts now, similar to on-campus housing. And we also do work throughout the year helping students stay connected to campus. So we do programming, we do e-communications and social media, we have peer advisors, students that can help your student with any off-campus issues they may have. And we can help too. We have professional staff. So if there are any problems with off-campus living, whether it's an apartment issue, a landlord problem, unresponsive landlords, roommate concerns off campus, we can help with any of those concerns that your student or you may have. So because our students are off campus, and almost half of our undergraduates are off campus, really within 1.5 miles of our campus, they're very close. So they're right here. Sometimes they're living off campus and they're right next to a residence hall, so it's sometimes not that different. But we have a great website of information, which I hope some of you have already looked at if you have a student living off campus, because it includes really a step-by-step guide for how do you look for an apartment in Boston, what is the Boston market like, what checklists do you need, what questions do you ask a realtor. We have a handbook online. There's so much information here that I won't be able to go over all of it with you today, but it's a great place for any student to start with their off-campus housing search. So it will enlighten students to their rights as renters in Boston. It connects them to us directly and to our student community ambassadors as well. So if you have a student living off campus, if your student's considering living off campus in the future, this is a great place to go to get the ball rolling on what that looks like here and what steps to take early, so it's not a frantic rush in the end to sign a lease and find money to pay a realtor. On our website, and we also have hard copies in our office, I know it's 2019, don't worry, the 2018 version still works. We have an online version of our guide to living off campus, and this has sort of a truncated version of what's on our website, so information about neighborhoods, what the transportation looks like from the South End versus from Mission Hill or Jamaica Plain. So wherever your student may be living, they can find out more about the neighborhood, more about what the rental costs are in that neighborhood, and what the area will be like. So they can decide, I'm okay commuting 30 minutes to campus, or no, I'd really want to be within walking distance. In addition, we have all of our resources from our website in this nice little booklet. So it's a great resource that you can take to go. We have them in our office, so if you're over in Spear Hall today, I encourage you to stop by and pick one up. And I've already mentioned our community ambassadors, but we have 9 awesome off-campus students that have lived off campus for a minimum of a year, and they do a ton of programming and messaging to our students. So they are out almost every week on campus doing tabling, letting students know about the resources that our office has, what they can provide. They run programs educating students about off-campus life. So we work with Residence Life all throughout the year. We've already done this in the fall, putting on presentations for, if you want to live off campus, here's how you get started. Here's what you can do, and here's maybe some tips to avoid. Things not to do, I guess, is sometimes even more helpful. So the community ambassadors are peer resources, they're advocates for our off-campus students, and they are role models for what an ideal Northeastern Husky is like living off campus. So they're knowledgeable, they're respectful, they're good neighbors. So they're always available in our office during office hours, but really students can find them in their communities and at a lot of our programming on campus. Okay, so back to online, because everything's online these days. In addition to our office website, which has checklists and all the resources I mentioned earlier, we have an online database. And so this database really has listings of apartments from licensed realtors in the area. And the nice thing about it is we have some oversight. So unlike things like Zillow or Craigslist, we can sort of determine what realtors are on here, what listings are we going to allow, and students and parents both have access to it. So it has apartment listings, it has realtors just listed that are nearby that you could contact directly. Students can find roommates through it, and they can also use it to find and sell their sublets. So they can find sublets, and they can also get rid of their room, I guess, so to speak, have someone take over their room if they're going away on co-op or going away on a dialogue or for the summer semesters. So the database interface is really clean. It has apartment listings, it has roommates, it has realtors, and it's free. So a student could expand their search to just find Northeastern roommates, or they could also look for other colleges as well. So Berkeley, Boston University, Boston College, other students are able to use this as well. So the nice thing is that we know sort of who's on it. We know that everyone's affiliated with a certain university, and we know that our landlords and property managers are reputable. They're licensed. They have agreed by signing a contract with our database that they're going to follow the Boston rental housing laws. So this gives us a lot of oversight, and we're able to manage it accordingly. So we definitely encourage students and parents to utilize this resource for any off-campus housing search. Hopefully everyone that's living off campus found off-campus housing fairly easily. I know January is not always the easiest time to look for housing, and a lot of times you're coming from far away. Some things to consider are always proximity to campus, picking roommates carefully, and then the question that we get all the time too is the amazing costs that it is to rent in Boston now. It is typical to pay 4 months of rent up front. So in the future, if your student is looking at moving off campus, know that there is first month's rent, last month's rent, a security deposit, and often a broker fee, as it's a very realtor-driven market. So this is normal here. Financial aid could also assist with off-campus housing, and so that's something to consider, talking to your student's financial aid counselor, or having them speak to their financial aid counselor to see what might be used for off-campus living. All students will need a cosigner, so because they're usually not fully employed, a realtor and a landlord, they're going to want someone who can prove that they can pay for the apartment. So they're going to be looking to parents, family members, guardians, anyone that's willing to sign their life away to co-sign with them. So the standard lease in Boston is September 1st through August 31st. It's definitely sort of driven by the fact that we have so many universities here, so we're on almost an academic cycle with our rental market. This can be challenging for students going away on co-op. Co-op cycles are January to June and then July to December. So in that case, a lot of times students will sublet their place or find a sublet to fill in some of those gaps and find more flexible housing. Alternatively, there are students that sign a year-long lease. That happens very often, and then they will just find somebody if they need to go away to San Francisco for a co-op or if they decide to go home for the summer. Apartments are generally unfurnished here, and I've mentioned subletting already because it's so common. Here are some reasons why students may sublet. So depending on your student's academic schedule, they may not be in Boston for a full 12 months. They may be here, which is very convenient. But with the amount of global co-ops, places, Northeastern's campuses, branch campuses throughout the United States, there's a lot of movement here. And so subletting happens more and more. And our database can be used for students to find sublets and also to promote and advertise their room when it's available. So please share that information with your students as they're starting to plan for their co-ops. One of the large roles of our office is helping students find housing, but also helping them with any issues they might have while they're in that housing. So that could be that something might be wrong with their apartment. Maybe that something was fixed and they've reported it to their landlord and it's been 2 weeks and they haven't received a response. So we often sit down with students to sort of navigate what are those next steps they can take, what kind of communication has been happening so far, what can we do to help support the student in their communication with their landlord. Is the landlord, within their rights to delay a repair, or does the student actually have the right to push the landlord to get things done a little bit faster based on the laws here in Massachusetts? So we are very familiar with the landlord and tenant laws here in Boston, and so we're able to tell students sort of where they fall based on the issue. Yes, this landlord needs to do A, B, and C, and here's how you can get them to take action. Or your landlord actually is following Boston law. You might just have to be a little bit more patient with, a rusty hinge that you want repaired. So really putting things in perspective for students and allowing them to become more knowledgeable about their rights in Boston so they can advocate for themselves. So all students have the right to a clean, safe, and sanitary apartment. We're often doing a lot of education and messaging about there should be smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, there should be working locks on windows and doors. those are things that are non-negotiables. So if you could help us spread that message, I know it might seem like they don't listen to you, but they do, because they come to our office and say, my mom told me to come here. And I say, why? And they say, I don't know. And that is a real puzzler for me, too. So if you do send them to me, tell them why. Tell them why. I would love that. There are illegal fees, too, that get charged in Boston. So landlords or realtors that maybe aren't practicing as they should might try to charge really unreasonable fees for really basic things that they're supposed to be doing. So if your student or yourself are really unsure, like, should I be paying this $500 fee? Is this fair? Can they take this from my security deposit? We can help with those questions as well. Roommate conflicts happen, of course, as we all know. It's not a perfect world, and living with people is not always easy. My husband will agree with me on this one for sure. So I think when it comes to roommate conflicts, we can definitely help. I know that our conflict resolution office here also provides excellent services for sort of just getting students to speak to one another. The roommate conflicts I've seen mostly revolve around the lack of communication. People just aren't necessarily on the same page. No one knows what the other person is doing. So our office has done a lot of work with students, just bringing them in, getting them to sort of talk through some of these issues. And Oscar is also an excellent resource for that. And I know Brianna will speak to that a little bit more. Last bullet on this slide is so important. Only people on a lease can live in the apartment. Students can absolutely have guests stay with them, but there's usually information in their contract about how long a guest can stay. It might be 7 days, it might be 20 days, but it's not a whole semester, it's not a whole year. So we, one, don't want students subletting illegally or having their friends stay on the couch and couch surf for months. That's not a good living situation for anyone. But that also puts the students on the lease in jeopardy as they're breaking the contract, and then it puts the students that aren't on the lease in jeopardy because they could be asked to leave or get kicked out at any time. So there is a housing ordinance in Boston where only 4 undergraduates can live together, and that's to try to mitigate this issue with overcrowding, because we do often see people, both landlords and sometimes students, wanting to cut costs or make more money by putting too many students into an apartment. So as your students are looking at off-campus apartments, if they say something like, well, we're only going to put 4 names on the lease, but the other 3 of us are going to make the living room into a bedroom, that's a huge red flag. A realtor shouldn't be allowing that, a landlord shouldn't be allowing that, and it's generally just not going to be safe should they need to exit due to a fire or something that we hope would not happen, but obviously we want to be safe. So just keep that in mind, that if they're not on the lease, they're not really protected as a tenant in that apartment. So it's extremely important to have some kind of written documentation and contract there. Okay, so this is a snapshot of sort of our programming and our communication with students. So we do lease reviews, which has to be one of the most commonly used services that we provide. Some of these leases are 30 pages long, and they're tiny print, and they don't always make sense. They're not in layperson terms. So I think last year we reviewed over 350 leases. And so in our office, we train our student staff as well to be able to read through a lease and let students know exactly what they're agreeing to. Like, did you know by signing this that there's a late fee for rent and it's this much? Did you know by signing this that you agree that you will shovel the snow outside of your apartment? So making sure that they're really taking away the key points and understanding it is a legally binding contract and what that means. The Lease Genius program is really, really great. Students can email us their leases. They can bring them in person. We will chat about leases over the phone with students and parents. So this, please let your students know about this. Please encourage your student to have us read it and yourself read it, since you will most likely be signing the lease along with them. It's great to get another set of eyes on it, and especially in our office, we've seen so many. So I think that we can really help answer the question, like, is this normal? Is this legal? Is this okay? Where it might not be the same in another location. We provide workshops. A lot of those are with on-campus housing to help students as they're transitioning off campus or if they're considering off-campus living. We have a huge apartment fair coming up on February 6th. So as Robin mentioned, it's housing selection time. It's also apartment hunting time in February. So these timelines really work well together. So on February 1st, after the housing selection numbers have come out, we have our apartment fair on February 6th. So students are able to consider their selection number and also to come to our apartment fair. And there we'll have realtors available, property managers available, and we'll have all of our student staff there to answer questions. We'll also have on-campus resources and City of Boston resources that might be helpful for your student to be aware of as they're living off campus. So this is a great way for students to actually meet realtors face-to-face and kind of find someone that they feel they could work well with. They're not obligated to only work with or speak to one realtor. They can gather information from many. And our realtors and property managers will be promoting openings for summer and also for the fall through August period, so that 2019 to 2020 lease time frame. And this is in the Curry Ballroom, so it's right down the hall from here. And that's coming up very soon. It's amazing how fast time is flying. We just got into this year. Okay, so what can parents do to help? I know many of you are living far from your student, and many of you probably are like, I want my student to become an adult, as we say, to learn how to do things on their own, and that's excellent. And I think that a lot of these tips will help you sort of support them in their journey to sort of take those steps to becoming more independent and making their own decisions. So being able to talk with your student about the housing search process, whether that's on-campus selection, off-campus search, figuring out what it is, what are their priorities, what is the budget, what are the pros and cons of each, and who will they be working with, and what kind of realtor should they be looking for. A lot of you may have more experience with this than they do, so maybe giving them some insight into what makes a good realtor. We'll educate them as much as we can about that as well, and it's great to have someone else say the same things, that a realtor is forthcoming, that they're communicative, that they're transparent, and that they're honest. All of those things, I think if they hear it from us and from you all, it really helps. Encouraging students to look at an apartment in person, which sometimes can be challenging with students going on study abroad or going on a co-op. So if your student is not in Boston during the apartment search season, having a friend or a roommate or a parent or a relative or someone they trust, a trusted friend, to look at the apartment in person, to really confirm that yes, the apartment is exactly how the realtor says it is, it's in a neighborhood that's great, you're not going to be disappointed, it seems safe, it seems sanitary. So things like that, which I know when we get so stressed about not having housing, it's easy just to sign something without seeing it, and I think that's one of the bigger mistakes we see, is students signing apartments before ever visiting them in person. So that's the big one for me. Have they read the lease? Have you read the lease? Having off-campus student services Lease Genius program review it is also an excellent tool and very easy to do. We're able to turn lease reviews around in less than 24 hours, so it's not a long wait at all. Looking at the apartment, making sure it's up to fire safety code, up to the locks work. I think it's really great to see an apartment and you get so excited that it's in an awesome neighborhood and all your friends are going to be living right here and it's practically on campus. It can be really easy to overlook things like smoke detectors, locks. Does the water work? Is the stove working? So those little things are just so important. They are all listed on our checklist on our website. And I think that's really helpful for you to print off or you to send them to our office and they can pick one up right off our wall. There's great checklists about what to ask a realtor, what to look for in an apartment beyond just the location and, does it have an awesome space to have friends over? I'm jumping ahead. I didn't realize, I thought I had one more slide, but that's okay. You'll all be happy to hear from our next presenter. So I'm going to invite up Brianna Sevigny to speak from Office of Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution. Thank you.
Just checking if this works. Can you hear me okay? All right, I'm gonna move around a little bit. Give you something different to look at. Welcome to my TED Talk. Just kidding. I hope you like it that much. So my name is Brianna Sevigny. I'm the director of the Office of Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution, which we call OSCAR here. You'll hear lots of acronyms at Northeastern. I'm here to tell you a little bit about some of the expectations and resources that we have on campus. They are the same for every single student, whether they are a first-year student, a transfer student, grad student, law, doctoral. Our expectations are the same across all of our campuses and levels. We really want students to think about not just what are the rules, not just what can I and can I not do. We want students to be thinking about how their choices are impacting themselves, their families, the university, and other people around them. We engage in discussions with students about their decision-making long-term. So how are they thinking about themselves now, what they want to be when they graduate, and really for the rest of their lives? Are we helping them to think about their decision-making long-term? Our code is sort of like a guide map, really. It helps them not only to think about what the restrictions are and expectations are, but also what those resources are. What I think is most important about that is when we think about no Husky alone and a Husky everywhere. Those aren't just taglines. Those are things that students really carry out in what they do. So whether they just were at NUN and they had access to resources even though they were abroad, or they do a study abroad or a dialogue of civilization and they're traveling, the expectations are the same, but the resources are also available to them. So no matter where they are, we do expect that they're going to represent themselves and the university well, but also if they need help, that they know that they're connected to a group of people who are looking out for them. So our purpose at the university is not just to be the rules people, but also to talk about what I mentioned earlier of impact, decision-making, accountability for their decisions, and thinking about long-term choices. So we really engage with students one-on-one, but we also do a lot of proactive training with student groups, with faculty, staff, and we're also available for students to come in and ask us questions. So, you know, the whole asking for a friend, they have a scenario for us and come in, and we'll talk with them about strategies for how they can solve the issue on their own, how they can handle it, and what's available to them at the university if they need someone to step in. So, college is a transition. All of you are well aware of that, whether your student is coming in from NUN, transferring from another institution. This is going to be a challenging time for your student. They're adjusting to a new location, and that's normal. There will be some conflict. We don't think conflict is bad. Conflict is about learning. It's about discovering how you want to approach a situation and how you want to do that in an adult fashion. I talked last night, we did some sessions for international and graduate level students. And we talked a lot about your responsibilities to understand people's boundaries, the platinum rule. It's not just the golden rule of understanding or treating people how you want to be treated, but treating people how they want to be treated. And we think that's a unique approach at Northeastern. We have such a diverse community. That means people are going to have all different experiences, all different boundaries, backgrounds, things that they want to do. And so that requires each of our students to get to know the people that they're interacting with, whether that's their roommate, whether that's a friend, someone they're dating, someone they're on a team with or in a club with, faculty members, people they're doing research with, going on co-op for. So that's something, that's part of the long-term strategy of thinking about some of these things. For some of your students, that's going to mean that they're going to push some of those boundaries to figure out, are the values that they have had their whole lives the ones that they still want to have now, that they're choosing for themselves? And in some cases, they're going to talk through that with you. In other cases, they're not going to talk through that with you. And that's going to mean some discussion on the back end. So what we hope is that we can engage with your student to talk about those things, how they can learn from the decisions that they're making, and how we can engage you in having some of those conversations as well, whether that's before, during, or after what's going on. So some of the top challenges that we experience, whether that's on or off campus, we always put this up because a lot of times people are surprised to know that noise is our #1 issue on and off campus by hundreds of violations. So part of the reason that I bring that up is, again, thinking about impact. So whether you're living in a residence hall where you have all college students, all Northeastern college students living next door to you, or you are living off campus where you have other students, but also young professionals, older folks, people with kids, people who have all different schedules. And we have a lot of medical people in our communities too, so sometimes they're trying to go to bed when your student wants to go get up. Other times it's the opposite. So we want people to be thinking about their responsibilities to their community. Alcohol and drugs we're going to talk about in a moment as well. Academic integrity, because we do have a really high expectation for our students in the classroom, but also communication and relationships. And I highlight that because As we know, and there's a lot of conversation happening on a nationwide level, people are glued to their cell phones, right? So we're not talking to each other, and we've already heard a little bit about roommate issues, things that are happening, whether they're living in their residence halls, they're not communicating clearly, or off campus. And I have to reiterate that communication is the #1 issue that we see when it comes to roommate issues, really issues of any kind. So helping your student to think about how are they setting their boundaries? How are they communicating? Is the passive-aggressive sticky note about borrowing spoons really going to solve the problem for them? Or would it be easier to have a conversation and learn how to navigate that conflict? That will be something that will benefit them no matter where they go, right? We learned that conflict is something that we have to do, so we want to help them be prepared for that no matter what. So I know most of you are really familiar with alcohol, and I'm not going to belabor the point, but I do want to highlight a couple of pieces that, as you may be aware, 21 is the magic number. Massachusetts is a relatively strict state regarding alcohol, and some key pieces that might be useful for you to know are, one, that even the transport of closed containers, if your student is under 21, is illegal. Why we bring that up is that oftentimes we'll see that students have friends of different ages. They might have relatives like sisters, cousins, brothers coming to visit campus who are older or younger than them. And if they are asking someone else to carry alcohol for them, or they are asked to do so for someone else, both of those people can be on the hook for that. We see that happen quite a bit. So being aware of that. Providing, this is another one, and we do talk about this with your students as well. Our policy is written very similarly to the law in the Commonwealth, in that not just giving alcohol to someone, but also providing a space where someone who's under the legal drinking age can consume alcohol is both against policy and the law. And that can be tricky as students are trying to meet people and welcoming them into their room. They are responsible as a host. So that's another point you could talk about with your student of how do they want to communicate that with their roommates? What are they comfortable with happening in their room? Some of your students are really easy with talking to their roommates about what is okay and what isn't. Others are a little more nervous about that. The roommate contract, whether they're on or off campus, can really help to identify what some of those are, but that's an important one as well. Even being in the presence of alcohol, if you're underage, is a violation. And fake IDs. I just bring this up because sometimes your students are like, everyone has a fake ID. They're not telling you the truth. That's not true. And it can be really problematic. Where we have seen that come up for some of our students being even more challenging is if they have a fake ID, which will get sent to the registry most of the time by the police, whether that's Boston Police or any of the local law enforcement agencies or NUPD. In some cases, they could lose their license for a period of time, and if they're preparing to go on co-op, that could be really challenging for them to have to try to do public transit, especially if they're going a long ways. So just some food for thought for you to be aware of what our perspectives are on that. I do want to go, I wonder if I can go back. Yes. Highlight this. There are resources on each of these slides. So OPEN is the Office of Prevention and Education at Northeastern. We do a lot of work through OPEN. They are almost all licensed clinicians. They do non-judgmental sessions with students to educate them about drugs and alcohol and the impact of their particular choices. It's not one of these sort of conversations. It's really engaging, and our students often report back to us. We don't hear from OPEN because it's confidential, but the students often report to us how engaging and interesting their meetings were and helpful it was to them. So just something for you to know about. In terms of drugs, I know there's been a lot of confusion because the laws have changed in the Commonwealth. The federal government ultimately has said, we don't really care what your state says, and if you would like any federal dollars, which most of our students rely on, I know I relied on it when I was in college, then you must go by what the federal government has said. So we have changed some of our sanctioning processes to be reflective of what the Commonwealth law is and to provide more education to students so that they understand what our expectations are, but we do not allow marijuana on campus, period, for any reason, under any circumstances. In some cases, your student might have a legal medical card to use marijuana. And we want students to still be able to access that. And so they need to talk to either UHCS, which is our health and counseling service, or to their medical provider about ways that they can access their prescriptions in a safe and legal way that also upholds the university policy. So we will work with them on that. Distribution is something that is really serious, and we still take it really seriously, even if it's marijuana, because we want to keep our campus safe as we can, and make sure that students know what it is that is around them and feel that their environments are a safe place. Prescription as well, whether it's their prescription, we know that your students are incredibly smart, but unless they are Doogie Howser, and I can still say that reference to you because you will remember it, even though your students won't, then they should not be sharing prescription medication, because even if they both just had their wisdom teeth out and they're just sharing the same prescription, they don't know how that might impact the other person. So again, kind of thinking about the community impact, being sure that they're being thoughtful about that. We do have a program called Medical Amnesty, and these are the numbers that we encourage you to know, but also that we highlight for our students. So if a student needs medical attention due to the use of drugs or alcohol, legally or illegally, we encourage them to call for help. They can call for themselves, they can call for their roommate, they can call for friends, they can call for people that they don't know that might be in their residence hall or in a space that's around them. They can even still do this off campus. So what we ask is that the caller remains with the person that needs the help. If it's them, that's easy, right? And then answers whatever questions they can for emergency medical staff when they arrive. In some cases, if they do know them, it's helpful. Even if they don't and they just observe certain behaviors, they can tell them that so they can know what to do. In that case, neither party would go through a conduct process. We would ask them to meet with OPEN. We do inform parents, and that would be it. We do typically only grant that once, and that's not because we want to scare students or we want to discourage them from trying to call for help. It's really that if this continues to happen, then typically there's a greater intervention that we need than what we can provide through the Medical Amnesty program. And we really haven't had students that have had that happen. I think once that I can think of in the past 7 years that I've been at Northeastern, and that student just needed a little bit more help. So that is available, and the Safe Zone app is awesome if you haven't heard about it yet, and we'll hear a little bit more about it in a few minutes. It's a great service. On campus, they're going to want to call our emergency line, and off campus, they'll need to call 911. A few things about civility and respect. Like I said, we have this incredibly diverse community, and conflict does happen. That is normal. We want to encourage students to engage in that conflict so they can learn from it, because a community where you can learn how to agree to disagree in a respectful way is one where you can actually learn a lot from people who have differences of opinion than you. Where we start to see some consequences or negative consequences are when it goes beyond that, when it becomes something like bullying, harassment. And if you as a parent are suddenly feeling like what your student is describing is more than a roommate conflict or more than a tense email with a faculty member, and your parental spidey sense is going off, call us. We'll talk you through whether or not that's something that we need to step in with, or we can bring the student in or encourage your student to come in and talk with us, and we'll evaluate what the situation is, if it's something that we can coach them through handling on their own, or if it's something that we need to connect them with a different resource so that they can step in. But we have resources all along the way to help your student no matter what the issue is, and to help them understand the parameters of that. That also goes for dating and sexual relationships. I know this can be a tricky topic to talk about with your students in some cases, and most students are like, I don't want to talk to you about this. But it's really, really important for you to have a conversation, and I'm going to show you on the next slide what I want you to talk with them about specifically. But we do have a Title IX policy and an office that does investigations, that provides resources and accommodations to students, gives them their options both on campus and through the legal system if that's something that they want to pursue or want to talk about. And what I really want to stress is this last paw print here is that our policy is the same and protects our students no matter what their sex, gender expression and identity, or sexual relationships, dating relationships are. It doesn't matter. all of our students are important, and their identities, it's the same no matter what. So here's the thing where you're all nervous, like, what is she gonna ask me to talk about with my student? Consent. So our policy and our definition here, it requires a mutually understandable words and or actions to indicate a willingness to participate in each and every act. So it could be something as simple as holding hands, it could be anything. So that could change who the initiator is, that's a requirement. And it's really important to talk with your students about what our definition is so they know what that is. It might not be your definition or your students coming into Northeastern, but they need to know what the university is expecting of them and what that looks like so that if their boundaries that they have communicated are not being respected, they know what to do about it, as well as how to think about what their boundaries are and communicate that. We always talk about, again, that no Husky alone slogan, if you will. Encouraging students to talk with their roommates or their friends about what those boundaries are for them so that if they go out or if they go to an event or they know that their friend is going on a date and they check in and something doesn't seem right, that they can step in. There's a real serious power in peer accountability, being able to help each other out, look out for each other, and if something doesn't look right to them, if they've communicated that, being able to help their friends out whenever that's safe and possible, but knowing when to call someone in if not. So the Office for University Equity and Compliance is our Title IX office, and you should hear from them during your time here as well. We transition to the really cute Husky face. I'm always waiting for the aw, because it's just so cute. While that face is really cute, it's really wicked smart too. We use Smart Husky, a hashtag at the university, because we want our students not just to be smart academically, but smart in every capacity, which is why I'm talking about all of these other things as well. But the classroom is a place where we do expect honesty and really hard work. We know that, like I said, your students are really smart to get here, but sometimes what we can experience in the classroom is that students are coming from a place where they're the cream of the crop, and suddenly they're around all other people who are just like them. And that can be a shock for a lot of students to feel like, I didn't really have to work that hard, and I did really well. And now all of a sudden I'm around all of these people who are this person who wrote a book, this person who's gonna pitch something at South by Southwest, this person who has already interned with a Fortune 500 company. That can be incredibly intimidating. Your student earned their place here. And we always try to remind them of that when they feel that imposter syndrome kind of coming in. But that means that sometimes they're going to feel like there's some stress or pressure in their academic work. And that might mean they would make some decisions, especially if it comes down to poor time management, which is the #1 reason that I have conversations with students about academic integrity. Being really careful about the choices that they're making so that they're getting credit for the work that they're doing, even if that means in some cases that they earned a lower grade. So helping your student to think not only through how they're behaving in the classroom and that professional relationship they're developing with their faculty members, but also to think about how they're preparing themselves. How are they developing study skills, time management? All of those things will be really beneficial to them. So what happens if there is a violation or an alleged violation of any sort? There's a report. We would determine what type of a hearing it's going to be. Most of our hearings are one-on-one hearings that will not result in any sort of disruption to the student's status. We'll talk with the student about what happened to figure out if there was a violation. And like I said, that's about, I would say, 93% of the hearings that we have on an annual basis. If there is potential for removal from the university for a period of time or permanently, or it's just a really complicated case, we would have the student meet with our board. Our board is all students, so it's also a leadership opportunity if your students want to get involved. Applications are due January 18th. Seems like a common theme here. We've got that as a date. But it's a great opportunity for them to meet with people who know what their experience is like, and to talk about what happened to figure out what the outcome should be. And then Any sort of responsible finding will result in some sort of sanctions. Our focus, again, is on learning, education, and helping the student kind of think through how do they want to move forward from that incident, what do they want to do differently in the future, what do they want to do the same, and what resources can help them with that. So these are some resources. I know some folks have been taking pictures, but these are the ones that I've been talking about throughout this presentation. The last paw print there is called We Care. They help students with any sort of unexpected issues that might arise. I'll get out of your picture for a second. That could be something as serious as there was a natural disaster where they're from and they're having a hard time reaching people, or they have, they broke their ankle and they need to have surgery, so they need help getting some class assignments or getting food. So they will not necessarily do the thing for the student, but they will facilitate making it as simple as possible and as streamlined as possible so the student doesn't have to try to run around and do a lot of different things during a stressful time. So it's a great resource to know about. So ways that we're going to partner with you. Most of our communication is going to be with our student. As Mallory said, your students do listen to you, and they do respect what you have to say. So sometimes they're not going to tell you things right away because they're worried about what that's going to be. Other times you're going to be the first person they call because they know that you're going to have an answer for them. So we encourage you to ask the student to take on some of the responsibility for what they need to do and what the next steps are. And in other cases, if there's something that you're not sure about, if you want to follow up on it, you can always call us. We may or may not be able to give you all of the information up front, but in cases where students found responsible for a drug or alcohol violation, we'll typically be notifying you at the conclusion of that process. And then also at the front end, if there's a potential risk for the student to be separated from the university, either by suspension or expulsion, we'll notify you at the front and then at the end as well, even if they're not suspended or expelled. But give us a call. If you get a letter like that, you can always call us and we'll be able to talk more openly with you about that process. But at any point, if there are questions, you can always refer to our code. It is online, but you can give us a call too and let us know. We're really excited to partner with you. Like I said, we do a lot of programming, training, development. It's not always because your student has violated the policies at the university. So welcome to the Husky family. We're looking forward to this semester, and I am going to pass this off, not to Deputy Chief, but to Staff Sergeant John Farrell.
Thank you, Brianna. Hello, everyone. Staff Sergeant John Farrell from Northeastern University Police. I apologize for my appearance. I typically am very proud to wear my uniform and squared away. I'm on light duty. I just had rotator cuff surgery not long ago and out of a sling not long ago, and I'm on light duty, so I'm just happy to put my socks on and tie my shoes. So I often do a lot of presentations. As Brianna said, I don't normally do this presentation to parents. That's usually my boss, Deputy Chief Galindo. I answer directly to him. I run a unit at Northeastern Police called the Crime Prevention and Community Engagement Unit. And so my unit is typically tasked with, it's either me or one of my partners in the unit who talks to your son or daughter. So we'll be doing that tomorrow, and we'll give them a similar talk, but it's usually much briefer, and it's to the point. And I'm noticing in this particular one, I've done it once or twice, but I have your undivided attention, and you're taking pictures and you're asking questions. When we talk to them, they're usually looking at their phones, and I'm all set. I'm good. So it's good to have your attention. But he called me last night, and he's down with the flu. So he said, Farrell, you're up. And I said, I'm on light duty. I'm not going to be in uniform. He said, you can handle it. So he's handsome, charming, funny, informative. I hope to be informative. So I'll do my best. Career law enforcement. I've been here at Northeastern University for close to 20 years. I'm in my 19th year. I, too, am a parent of a husky. I'll take some applause for that. Thank you. I took a lot of reports and dealt with a few drunken people over the years in order to get my daughter into Northeastern. And I'm very proud that she's here. She transferred, so for those transfer parents that are here. And also I had a niece in the mid-2000s transfer from a small college in Georgia and came here to the big city, and she did very well. So I speak from that experience and also the experience of being here almost 20 years and seeing a tremendous amount of positive change. And I want you to know before we get started, as a staff member and as a parent of a husky, and I have two more daughters at home, teenage daughters. That's why I look the way I do. I hope they're coming here soon too, but I'm very proud to be a member of this community. I hope it comes forth in my talk. I'm very excited to be here with you. I love this community. I believe in everything that was said today. I work with Robin and her staff, Brianna and her staff, Mallory and her staff. We partner very well together. Not just this group that's up here, but every single entity that was mentioned, Open, University Health and Counseling. It is tremendous the amount of cooperation that occurs. And that includes my department, who's concerned with keeping the peace and enforcing the laws and the rules and regs. We don't just do that. We have a comprehensive approach to the education of the young men and women that are here. And we work well in order so that they succeed, all right? And I firmly believe that, and I've seen it in action every day. And I hope that comes across in this talk. We're right on schedule. I hope to keep us on schedule. And just a reminder of what Robin said, when I'm done, we're gonna do a little Q&A here for about 15 minutes. And then if you didn't get a chance to ask the question that you wanted to, we'll all make our way out to the lobby by the Husky out there, and you can approach us. My officer, Anika Crutchfield, who will speak to your sons and daughters tomorrow, she'll be out there too, and she can answer some questions that you might have. So a brief overview of my department. That's our cruiser. She's a beauty, isn't she? We are like a police department in many ways. We are a police department, and we're different in other ways. I hope to. And different in a good way. So we have about 70 sworn personnel. That's a very good sized department. Where are my Massachusetts folks? Show me a couple of hands. There they are. All right. That's good to see a friendly face. We go to the same academies, with the exception of Boston Police and Massachusetts State Police, who run their own academies, but we go to the same police academies as the men and women who patrol your cities and towns. And so we're a legitimate police agency. I'm very proud of that. We were accredited recently. We've been accredited with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And it was 3.5 years ago. It's been a 3.5-year process. We just completed that process, and we're waiting final word. But I'm confident to say that in the very near future, we're going to get word from a national accreditation agency called CALIA, if I'm saying it correctly, the Commission for Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. It's national accreditation, which holds us to the highest of standards, of which there are only 6 other agencies in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that have that distinction. Northeastern University Police will very soon have that distinction. And I hope that means something to you, because it means a lot to us. We want to be, as our chief often says, not just the best campus police department. We want to be the best police department in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we want that to show in the service and the protection that we offer our students, staff, faculty, and local community. So 70 sworn personnel. How we differ a little bit. Part of our personnel are almost a third are community service officers. So they're not sworn personnel, but they're full-time staff who are specially trained as dispatchers. They provide safety escorts. They test our alarm systems. They answer the phones. They dispatch our calls for service. They They do a myriad of things that are the very backbone of our agency. They focus on the security-oriented aspect of the job and allow us to put the police officers to put their focus in other areas as well. Most of us are emergency medical technicians, EMTs. So in all of our cruisers like this, there will be a fully stocked medical kit with everything that's needed to deal with a medical emergency, save an ambulance itself. So EpiPens, Narcan for the opioid overdose, bandages and the like. And some of the finest hospitals in the world are right up the street. And so I think that's very good to know. And so, like any other accredited police department, detectives who go to the trainings that are needed to follow up extensively on investigations, whether it's crime scene investigations, sexual assault investigators, and the like. My unit's responsibility, one of the responsibilities, is to train this community to deal with fire safety related issues and to have people prepared in the event that such an emergency would come up. Again, how we differ. Part of our police department is a civilian office called the Office of Emergency Management, whose full-time duty it is to work with student, staff, and faculty, the senior leadership of all the departments at Northeastern, to make sure that we are prepared for any type of emergency that might beset our community or besets Boston, such as the Boston Marathon, and which happened a few years ago, and how we as a community react to that. Are we preparing our community for such an issue? And are we developing resilience to bounce back from that? And do we have a communication system set up to let people know? And that's what our Office of Emergency Management does. For those of you who had students that went to NUN, our International Security Office works around the clock, civilians who prepare people, our student, staff, and faculty go to every corner of the globe on sabbaticals, on dialogues, to do the NUN experience, things like that. Our athletic teams travel around the world. We have the women's hockey team is in Belfast right now playing, I think, as we speak. It's our International Security Office that prepares all of them for that trip and reminds them that if you have any issue, we are your voice. We are your connection over there. So if you need medical attention, we'll tell you where that nearest hospital is. We'll prepare you for that trip. We'll get you ready for that. We'll let you know where the embassy is, the consulate, to get you the assistance that you need. We are responsible for your safety while you are abroad. And so that's how we're alike and how we differ. I hope I went a little too fast. Sorry about that. I went way too fast. All right, thanks. Don't tell the deputy, please. All right. All right, so full-time police officers, community service officers. In addition to that, we hire contracted, professionally trained security. So when you pulled into the garage to park, you saw that we had a contract officer there making sure we have the right personnel in there, checking those particular physical plants, as well as contracted security for our high pedestrian traffic areas, to be an extra set of professionally trained eyes and ears who carry radios with them to get in touch with us in case of any type of emergency. You walk up to them, let them know you have an issue, you'd like to speak with Northeastern Police, we're there in a heartbeat. Our job is to create a safe and secure environment, and we do that using technology, but most importantly, to make sure that we're working as a team with your sons and daughters, with staff members, faculty members, and the like. But some of the technology we employ, emergency blue light phones. You may not have seen the blue lights around campus, but now that I mention them, you'll notice them. Hundreds in parking garages, in the tunnel system, the academic tunnel system, outside of every academic building. Just in case your phone was lost or stolen, you needed to go up and get emergency help right away. Press the red button. The red button dials that 3333 extension. Or you could hit the black button in order to dial the 2121 extension. I would love for you at the moment to take a picture of the numbers that are up there on the screen, and why is that? I want you to do two things with that. To have that as a resource for you in the event that you in New Jersey or Kansas or England or whatever the case may be where home is need to get in touch with us. You want us to do a well-being check. You heard from your daughter or son that there's a problem, but they don't have a means of getting in touch with us, so you get in touch with us and let us know what the issue is. We have two numbers, much like your police department at home. A business line. All Northeastern numbers begin with the 617 area code to 373 prefix. Our business number is 2121 for non-emergency situations. Very important to know that the extension that ends in 3333 is your on-campus or very, very near to campus 911. If you had a medical emergency, if you had a police emergency, whatever the emergency is on campus, we do not, I repeat, we do not want you to dial 911. 911 is not your always best option, particularly when you are on campus. And I'll give you an example. Our students, our staff, our faculty know this building as the L building. They know this particular space within the L building as Blackman Auditorium. Every single one of our 90-plus buildings has a physical address. So if you call 911 and you want the ambulance to arrive or you want the police to arrive, they're going to ask you what the physical address of where you are. And we don't know that. We expect you to know that you're in the L building, and that's it. And more specifically, I'm in the Blackman Auditorium. So if you call 911 and say, quick, please, my friend's having a diabetic emergency. They're about to pass out. I don't know what to do. Please, please, hurry, hurry, hurry. Okay, where are you? What's the problem and where are you? Those are the same questions we're going to ask. So you know what the problem is, but you don't always know exactly where you are. I guarantee you everyone in my department knows where the L building is and specifically where Blackman Auditorium is. I don't need the physical address, but Boston EMS will. So if you say, please, okay, where are you? I'm in Blackman Auditorium. They're going to say, where's that? And then you'll say, at Northeastern, please hurry. And they'll say, hold on. I'll get Northeastern police on the line. When there is a medical emergency or police emergency, seconds count, do they not? So we want you to call us. I told you most of us are EMTs round the clock. So an EMT will respond. Police officers will respond. And if we need additional assistance, such as EMS, we will call. Because otherwise, 911 is going to call us and say, you have a medical emergency in your Blackman Auditorium. Where is that? We'll help you. And we want to be able to expedite that. And I have other ways in which we can expedite that. So I hope you take that number down, okay? Here is a fantastic app, and I'm very excited about this. I agree with Mallory, I agree with Brianna that they still do listen to you. Now, I have teenage daughters at home. Sometimes I doubt that, but I know that they will listen to you. So when you say, hey, tomorrow they're going to talk to you about the safety app, I want you to download that, all right? Because that's how they're going to have those tools on their tool belt when they need it. This is how this app works. So there are safety apps out there, but this one was built just for us here at Northeastern. So I told you there's two numbers for Northeastern Police. If you just need to talk with an operator, you want a safety escort, which we will provide from point A to point B 24/7, 365. Will someone walk me from this point A on campus to that point B on campus? I'm a little nervous about walking this time of night. Sure, no problem. Call 2121. With the app, you don't have to remember that number. Just press the blue help button. It simply dials 2121. If you press the green first aid button, you're dialing 2121. It's a non-emergency medical situation, but you're letting us know that the reason you're calling has to do with a non-emergency medical situation, a laceration to a finger, which happens all the time when they're preparing dinner or something like that. They're on campus. It not only dials 2121, but it shows us where the call is coming from within the geofence of the campus. And there is our campus right there. Not only are you showing the dispatcher while you're calling, but you're showing every on-duty patrol officer who's calling and where they're calling from and what the nature of the call is. So if you press the green button, an EMT is going to pay particular attention to that call coming in. They carry with them when at the start of their shift, a particular phone. So they're seeing the exact same information as their fellow brother and sister officers and the dispatcher. So they might say, hey, somebody's calling for a medical problem, and I'm just a couple buildings away. I'm going to make my way there before I even know what the exact issue is. It expedites help. if you press the red emergency button while you're within the geofence of that campus, you are dialing the 3333 number, and you're also letting us know that you have an emergency. And we know where you are, and help is on the way before you even speak with the dispatcher, before we even know the details of your emergency. It's very easy. You can download it at the App Store or on Google. Now, we created a video for this. I'm proud to say that it's a 6-minute video, which I will not make you go through. I'm going to show you a little snippet of it here. I wrote the video. I wrote this text for it. I filmed it. I even have a small part in it. So I'll let you know when that is. Now, typically, you have to go to a Hollywood premiere or a Cannes Film Festival to see cinematic quality like this, but this gives you an idea of what it's like.
Did you guys download the Safe Zone app yet?
Absolutely. What's Safe Zone?
What? Safe Zone?
See?
It's a free,
That's me right there.
cloud-based mobile app providing the Northeastern University Police Department with the capability of responding to geolocated reports.
That's my daughter
of
in the red
emergencies,
because I couldn't find enough help
non-emergencies,
that day.
and minor medical alerts.
Safe Zone is user-friendly, and it's an additive safety tool that provides enhanced response capabilities to Northeastern's first responders.
This video will give you a basic understanding of the main features of the Safe Zone app and how it can be useful in providing you, the Northeastern affiliate, with safety and security assistance.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, gotcha. And if you go to our website, you can watch that video in its entirety. So you wonder, like, what are the problems here, and what are the issues that you deal with? What are your most frequently reported crimes? They are crimes of opportunity, right? And in particular, when you think about it, colleges and universities in the States, and particularly here in Boston, we pride ourselves on our open campuses, right? People are welcome to come on our campuses even if they're not affiliated. So if they want to attend a public lecture, if they want to be a guest in the residence hall of your son or daughter, if they want to come here to our cafes, they're welcome to do so as long as they behave themselves. And that's great, and that works out most of the time. But what it also does is it invites an element who wants to come onto campus and take advantage of those liberties. So one of the biggest problems we have is the theft of unattended property from places such as Snell Library, the Student Center, the common areas of residence halls. And these are the items that they're looking for, right? Cell phones, tablets, laptops, bicycles, they're our biggest theft issues. So we offer ways in which we can combat that. We try to teach your sons and daughters, all of our staff members, faculty members, don't leave your stuff unattended. You're going to feel comfortable here, but don't leave it unattended, because if you do, eventually someone will come along and take that item, resell it, and make money off it. All right? So everybody and their brother has told you today to follow them on social media. I'm no different. But I want to give you another snippet of how we use social media to train our community. Our Don't Leave It Unattended campaign, an example.
One of the most prevalent crimes we have here on campus is theft of unattended property. When you look around this campus, there are no walls. Stuff like cell phones, laptops, notebooks, and backpacks, if you leave it unattended, it'll be gone in seconds.
And that's Officer Crutchfield. She's the one that'll be addressing the incoming students tomorrow. Here's another campaign we call, yeah, that is spelled correctly. It's called a Smattin' Up Huskies campaign. This particular officer is very good. Hold on, I'll give you an example.
Hey, everybody's got to take a power nap every now and then between classes. We get that, but you got to be smart about it. You see, people are looking for opportunities to take your stuff, so you can't give them opportunities to take your stuff. Like this kid. She's taking a nap, but she's got her arm through the strap and she's leaning on the backpack. If somebody went to take it, she would know about it. Now this kid, on the other hand, his bag is easy pickings. Nap smart, Huskies.
Thank you. So not only do we want them to follow us on social media, so I'm going to encourage you to tell them to do that, but I want you to follow us as well. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, because you will see these same messages and you can reinforce what we're trying to tell them. Hey, make sure you don't leave your stuff unattended. Did you see what they posted this week? That type of thing. All right, so here are ways that we can help combat that, all right? Don't leave your stuff unattended, but we will offer anyone affiliated with our university two free, very important services. One is the registration of laptops and electronic devices such as tablets, things like that. It's a means of protection. The thieves know that those items are protected through registration, all right? We offer it for free, although it costs us quite a considerable amount of money to do that, because it works. It's a deterrent to the thief. And if it is stolen and recovered by the police, by a Good Samaritan trying to do the right thing, get the property back to its rightful owner, there's a way to get the property back, whether it's domestically or internationally, and it works. Just this week, we heard from a department in Delaware who recovered one. It was an alum who graduated years ago and had registered their property with us. We were able to help get them back because of that. Also, when we meet them, this is also an engagement opportunity for us to say, hey, you registered your laptop. Did you register your bike with us? Oh, great. Well, here, we can do that as well. And so this is a chance for us to meet your sons and daughters as well, get to know them, exchange cards. If they want to begin the registration process at home or now before they even begin the semester, they can start to fill in the process and then see us for the remainder of it to expedite the registration process. We are effective as a police department, not just by answering calls for service, solving a problem, writing a report, making an arrest, whatever. That is a very small part of what we do. The way that we're effective, the way that we make a connection with the people we serve and protect, the way we form legitimacy as a police department is through engagement, is through getting to know them and they us, to form a relationship in which we can, that there's trust, and we do that through these programs that we offer. Nationally recognized programs, self-defense, rape aggression defense for men and for women, a course, all right? A abbreviated class, a SAFE class, self-defense awareness, familiarization, exchange. Our officers are trained in that. CPR training. My unit does presentations on safety talks. The goal is to create a safe, secure environment in which we're all working to do that. More ways in which we engage. Social media, I just showed you a couple snippets of that, is a huge tool for doing that. You follow us as well, okay? A Helpful Husky campaign. That's our way of saying thanks. You do something good, you do something helpful and productive here. Here's a card on me. It's good for a free cup of coffee and a muffin at Wollaston's. We also want people to practice the what ifs in life. What if this happens? What would I do? So we have a whole campaign on that as well. All right. Here's another tool on your tool belt. Because we do, as was mentioned earlier, accept money from the government to run as an organization, Uncle Sam says you have to have a system in place for emergency alerts and timely warnings. And because they have, and I have as a staff member, a Northeastern affiliate email, I will receive those to tell you what to do and what not to do, where to go, where not to go in the event of an emergency. In addition to that, something not required by the government is we offer advisories. So we will send out an advisory, and we'll also post those advisories on social media. An example of that would be not something that doesn't rise to the level of an alert or a warning, but it will help with your commute, or tells you to avoid an area because there's police or fire activity, things like that. If you want to opt in for advisories, simply text NUPD advisory to that number, which spells out campus, and you may do that as well, okay? And the best testimony is from those whom you protect and serve.
I think Northeastern is a really interesting campus because we're in the middle of a city, but we have a contained campus, which is something that I was looking for as a student. It's really nice when an NUPD officer will come to the floor meeting, kind of give their perspective and their role, what they can do for our residents, their presence in general on campus, to have that kind of perspective and have our residents be able to put names and faces to officers and know that their presence doesn't necessarily have to be just about policy enforcement, that our officers, our detectives genuinely care about who we are and what we're doing at the university here, and I think that that's, again, really special.
This is our contact information. You'll see off-campus student services, residential life, that was up there, so I'll go briefly here. That's NUPDs and Oscars as well. Please, our job is to answer any questions that you have. I don't know if we'll have the time for that. Susan will address that, but we will be outside as well. Okay, thank you for your time. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. If we could turn the lights on, we're going to be dismissing for lunch.